All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live arts webinar where we talk about art, blockchain, technology, AI. So today, again, we speak about AI, and we have some wonderful artists and market leaders with us today who will introduce themselves actually shortly. Just a brief reminder for those of you who are new to Live Art. Live Art is a global platform for art. We work with a variety of different projects, including RWA tokenization. So we work with masterpieces and tokenizing them, drops by some of the most established artists. And speaking of AI, we're actually launching our own AI agent very soon. So stay tuned for that. So AI is everywhere. It's impossible to avoid this topic. That's why we're here a second week in a row talking about AI, actually. But today I would like to start with introductions. So we have four great speakers with us today. So if you can start briefly introducing yourself. And then my first question is actually about your Web3 journey. How did that start? So maybe Anne, if we can start with you and then just go in the order of us on the stage, would be amazing. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me on this panel webinar. And super excited to talk about AI, which I'm a little obsessed with. I am an artist and I've been doing digital artwork for over 3 decades now. I was trained traditionally at the Rhode Island School of Design in painting and drawing, but entered the digital world a long time ago and have always enjoyed it, even though it's been challenging. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of the hurdles that artists have faced with blockchain and AI. But I just think that the computer is an incredibly powerful visual thinking tool, and that it's enabled me to create art that I would not have been able to make without it. And some of that art I've created with the Josh Craig and with the help of Todd Dailey here. And one of those pieces most successfully, I think, is now in the collection of the Centre Pompidou in Paris.
This is fantastic. Yeah, and I've been familiar with your work for a while and would love for you to speak also about works that are in Pompidou, because I think that's something that we are really all trying to achieve, is to get more cool digital art into the greatest museums, into the greatest world's museums. And I think you achieved that, which is fantastic. So let's definitely cover that. But thank you so much. Raina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Elena, thanks so much for inviting us today. And it's always such a pleasure and so fun and so insightful speaking with Anne, Todd, and the Josh Craig. I'm a cultural consultant. I've been working in the fine art industry for over 15 years doing logistics, project management, and artist liaison work. I was formerly at Pace Gallery for over a decade, which is one of the leading global contemporary art galleries with over 10 locations all around the world, if you're not familiar with it. And there I served as the director of media arts, where I founded the media arts department. It never existed before. So it was emulating what museums and institutions were doing, because they started exhibiting and acquiring media arts, which is really just an umbrella term for artworks that have a digital or analog component. So there I developed the best practices and procedures for presenting it in a gallery space, as well as loaning it to various places around the world, and also sales strategies for digital art. You need way more components than a traditional, painting, and you need there's so many other considerations: power, internet, etc. So in 2014, I started working with Team Lab, and they're this international art collective based in Tokyo. And that was really my first experience working with digital or time-based media, software-based art, installation art. And I was really excited about it. And at Pace, I started working with all of their artists working in that space. So Leo Villarreal, Studio Drift, A.A. Murakami, Random International, Raphael Zonnehammer, others. And that, working with these like big installations or screen-based works got me down this path of digital art. And so I was really interested in blockchain, more of like a means of proof of transferring a digital file. And what I can really nerd out about this, so I'm going to stop it there. There are so many complications with a digital file. It's inherently easy to reproduce, save, archive, replicate. So anyways, addressing those issues and then getting into like how artists were experimenting with this new technology. Artists are always at the forefront of experimenting with things before they become commercial. And that led to just all the way down this path of emerging technologies. And, with AI, which, has been around for decades, but it's really fascinating how artists continue to use it as it evolves in the space.
Absolutely. No, I mean, with your background, I think it's really important to hear how actually digital art has been changing through the years, because you've been working with both younger generation of the artists and more, I don't know, more traditional digital artists, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
So,
And to add, like I'm also, I've been an independent curator. And so really love to produce interdisciplinary shows. I think it's really important to show digital art on par with more conventional artworks, traditional materials. And so have been fortunate enough to work with Anne and the Josh Craig and showing their work in some of the spaces too. So
amazing. Thank you, Raina. Josh, would you like to quickly introduce yourself now, or not quickly, but introduce yourself and tell us about your journey and what are you working on?
For sure. Cool. You
Yes,
guys can
we
hear
can
me,
hear
right?
you well.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah, I'm Josh Craig, the audio guy who makes people move and wonder. I've been working with Anne for a few years now. And it's quite honestly been Todd and Anne and Raina actually has been quite a beautiful journey. Learning more and more about these artificial intelligence pipelines and how to like incorporate that into like our day-to-day creative artistic infatuations. So with audio, I'm pretty much hands-on analog guy. And currently right now I'm in California for NAM, which is pretty much the presentation of all the new cutting edge technology for the music world. And right now I'm here with the E-Ray 2, which is a MIDI expressive looper and controller. So we're here with our booth displaying this. So just like some of the stuff I'm up to is pretty much just future tech and audiovisual collaborations with my friends and a few pioneers. And I'm very happy to be here. I look like laser eye Josh, so I'm like trying to shoot out with the groove and the energy right now. So yeah, thanks for having me on here. Shout outs to you, Elaine. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. No, thank you so much. And yeah, I love seeing your collaborations with Anne. So yeah, we'll talk more about future trains in a bit, but thank you for joining. Todd, would you like to introduce yourself as well? Speak a little bit about your journey.
So Todd Dailey, I'm the tech guy behind Anne, who's the art person, and Josh, who's the sound person. Anne and I've been working together for over 3 years now, and like a lot of people, we met over COVID and started collaborating. We actually started on 3D printing, which is another nerdy thing that I do. And Anne had some, they were crystals, right? The AI crystals that were AI designed, and that she had made. And I was like, I think these are probably printable, and we made some 3D prints of those, and that started us collaborating, and we've continued on that. We actually started very early with AI art. We started thinking about what we could do, and at that time there was a pretty new system called VQGAN Clip, which was a very early way of doing AI art, and it was making static images, and we thought, well, we could actually make moving images, and it was all kind of raw back then. So we worked on some workflows, and that became a big piece that we made, which ended up getting a lot of traction, ended up on the front of the New York Times art page, and that was Wonder of It All, wasn't it? Anne was the name of the piece. And Josh worked on that as well, and that was kind of our first big collab on that. And since then, we've done a lot of work with generating static images, generating video images, and most recently on this piece, we wanted to do a video-to-video workflow that was a lot more interesting, and I'll talk a little bit more about tech later. But that's kind of our history and journey on how we got to where we're at today. It's been fun collaborating, experimenting, working with these two. I see myself as kind of the person who takes Anne's sometimes unreasonable ideas on what's technically possible, and tries to turn those into reality. So it's always fun and challenging to try to figure out how we can realize an artistic vision with the tools that are on hand today.
I love it, and I love how you have the whole team working on this project. I think a lot of times artists, well, they either have huge teams or they're working just by themselves, and here you have a very nice team going, so that's great. Actually, I wanted to also start the conversation with a little bit talking about the market. And more in general. So there have been a lot of fluctuations over the past several years. We're still living in fluctuations. So I'm curious how you feel the digital art has changed over the years. What do you see picking up right now? Is it all about AI? Just your thinking about this, because I think right now it's really unavoidable to think about what's going on, where we're going, what's going to happen with digital art. Is there a future for art NFTs really? And what kind of future waits for us? I know all big questions, but would be very interested in hearing your thoughts about that. Maybe Anne, if you want to start, or Raina. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Anne, do you want to go first?
I feel like it's such a fraught question. It was so exciting in 2021 to have a really active, frothy market for digital art. And as also a collector of especially early computer artwork, I'd say it's the first time that there seemed to be a large, excited base of collectors for any type of digital artwork. So it has been somewhat disappointing that cooled off so quickly, and seemed to be mostly people just collecting. Although there were some serious art collectors, a lot of the people involved at that time, because they came from the crypto world, I think were just buying art to flip it and make money, and then they moved on to, I don't know, buying sports cars or something else. And the art market, and Raina can speak to this more from being, in the traditional art world for so long as well, has also cooled off. So I think we're in a period now where it's very challenging for artists, whether they're doing oil painting or digital artwork, to make a living selling artwork.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but Raina.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough time. I think it's been a tough time, and like Anne mentioned, just the traditional art market, from galleries and auction sales, secondary market, all of that's down. I mean, the art report that came out at the end of last year said sales were down 40%. I think it's probably even more, and because no one knows what was sold for discounts and all of that stuff that's not really public knowledge. And I think also that during the boom, the general art market was also had this like a little bit of an up from COVID, or post COVID. It went down, then a little bit back up, and primary market prices also got inflated. So it's a really, I think, tough time. And I think it's a good like moment to reconsider like how we want to talk about digital art in general, because I think the word NFT has a really bad rep. And so I think it's a great moment to kind of like rebrand and re-strategize. And it's weeding out, I think, a lot of people that were like bad actors in the space. And like Anne mentioned, a lot of the buyers were like crypto buyers that were trying to create markets for certain artists. So with all that said, I think that, yeah, I think it's like a learning moment, a processing moment, and I think it's going to continue. We're just gonna have to use different language, and even like for the past several years, the way you would sell like one piece of digital art to like a traditional collector versus, I don't know, a digital art collector or an NFT collector, you would use totally different language about the blockchain because the knowledge level is so different. And so I think it's also, we want to like continue to have like webinars like this and like educational programming to supplement the art too, so people have like a better understanding of it. That said, it's like I also hate when we get so lost in the tech of things, and that like takes over the artistic concept, because we don't really break down how an abstract painting is made. Of course, we can say Jackson Pollock used car paint and oil paint or house paint, but we don't go into as much detail. I also think what would be helpful with AI art, NFTs, is having more like categories and movements. And even if we're for right now like appropriating terms, which we tend to do, like this AI work is very surrealist. It would be great to create some definitions so we can really start to differentiate things in stylistic manners versus like this AI used runway to create, the imagery. Like let's start explaining these like digital tools in more artistic ways.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it all makes a lot of sense, but I also want to, from live art's point of view, so we've been releasing various collections, and I think that what works best always is kind of presenting this best quality works to the market, or at least kind of understanding what your audience wants. And once you know that, I think it's kind of easier to also sell because people are interested in buying what they want. And I think what Anne and the team are working on, and this focus on very creative work, the work that is done kind of together with AI, I think it's a very smart approach, and I do believe there is a lot of future there.
Yeah, and I
Josh,
think,
yeah.
Josh, you go ahead on the creative side. I have
Okay.
something to say on the tech side.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in terms of like a broad sense that I think the future of these like forms of art that we're working on, it's really based and rooted in collaboration. And that's the main thing that I wanted to take away from working with Anne, was working with her has like opened up even my definition of art. So I think for other people, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be rooted in like financial success or things like that. I mean, that's like a good booster, and it does help with certain things, but I think the biggest boost is like the emotional uplifting of it, and like how positive it feels to like make something cool with other people, because you sort of you reach a certain ceiling or threshold working by yourself. And with like digital art and digital fine art in general, you can like do pretty much borderline anything with enough CPU and a good sound card and Wi-Fi. So I think working with other people really does like sort of ground you a bit and bring things back down to the root, so you can sort of like grow a bit bigger, I guess, in some type of way. And I don't know, I guess the way the world is, we kind of need to collaborate a bit more globally. So I think that this project and everything we've been working on and everything we're going to continue to work on in the future would like, I guess if I wanted anybody to take anything away from it, would be like collaborating and like the value of it.
I love it, Josh. No, I think that's great. I mean, I think it's always so important to collaborate, for artists to collaborate, for the community to collaborate with the artists, collectors collaborating with the artists, and Anne is a great example of that as well. So yeah.
And
Todd,
I think
please.
from the technical side, there's never been a better time, I think, to be kind of a technical maker. You can have in your house, if you have enough space, you can have a 3D printer, you can have a plotter, you can have a laser cutter, you can have a sticker printer, you can have all of these, in addition to Josh's amazing studio. I mean, you can have all these gadgets. A lot of them are pretty reasonable. And I think AI is getting really interesting because you're reaching a point where the chips are powerful enough that you can run local AI that's pretty performative, with a totally reasonable model on a mini PC or even something like a Raspberry Pi. And so that really opens up a whole world where you don't have to use the cloud. You don't have to use a $3,000 NVIDIA card, to do this kind of stuff. And I mean, some of the things that people were doing with like reactive AI, you could have an art piece, and plenty of people have done pieces that sort of use a camera and react to that. But that sort of thing is becoming much more accessible. So on the positive side, I think the idea of all this and new technologies all the time. CES, I was just looking, there was color e-ink is really coming into its own, and that's an amazing technology. A zero power screen that's got all these colors on it. So I'm super excited. I know Anne and Josh think a lot about the marketplace and markets for art. I think about the nerdy aspects of art, and I think there's just amazing tools that are out there for people today.
Yeah, the question was about the market, but there are incredibly positive things that came out of the crypto and NFT space. And as Josh was saying, collaboration. And I hope that the people who entered, even if they're not selling as much work, I think it opened up a creative marketplace to people who might otherwise not have engaged with it. And I hope that they are still making things and purchasing things or looking at visual things online and appreciating them.
For sure. No, I can, confirm. I see a lot of artists working in the space. Artists are very much creating. And I think I see we have a good number of viewers right now, and I'm sure there are quite a few artists there. And I think artists are artists. They want to create. They want to do new things. So, I think there's a lot of positivity in that. All right, so maybe we can go into your latest projects, the Future Trains. So if you can tell us a little bit about it, how it was created, and what's the technology behind it, and if there are any plans for it to be exhibited anywhere and anywhere else, and anything else you want to say about the project.
And why don't you set up the concepts and then I can jump in with the tech?
Sure. Yeah, and hopefully Josh will pop back in. I don't know what happened there. The project was a long time in the making, but started with this idea that Josh and I were both obsessed with the New York subway system and with transportation and a kind of the modern landscape of urban transportation. And he had already done a project on the subway system. I had a lot of footage, and we began to gather more footage, and he shot amazing video with a tripod and then with all these microphones to get incredible high quality surround sound. And we had a pretty clear concept of kind of the vibe we wanted. And I thought it would be actually easy to get with AI and the new kind of stylized videos that were promised with AI, things like Sora, which kept being teased on Instagram and never coming out. And I tried many off-the-shelf options, and none of them did anything remotely like what we wanted to have happen. And I kept writing to Jessica at Maker's Place and saying, I'm sorry, like it's just not happening. We have to delay. And this went on for over 6 months. And then fortunately, Todd was able to help us create quite an elaborate custom AI pipeline using Stable Diffusion and drawing in prompts from a previous project. And if we want to get into the technical part, we can do that. But suffice it to say, it took a long time to develop the pipeline. And then even once we got some results that were good, they were few and far between. So we did many, many runs to get things that we were happy with. So it was a journey in and of itself. But then when we saw the ones that we liked, we were like, wow, this is it. And we were really excited about them. And of course, when I heard, the music that Josh put to them, I was super extra excited about them.
This is amazing.
Thanks, Anne.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a vibe. Thank you, Anne.
Go ahead.
Each artwork has a totally different vibe, and it's a different perspective of the train, like looking across like a platform at it, or feeling like you're inside it, feeling like it's like so intense and you're going high speed. Others is like more relaxed. And then the audio, adds this other like dimension, because when I'm totally transfixed watching these. Like I feel like I'm in a portal, I'm going to like a different dimension, state of mind. And so sometimes it feels very lively and vibrant, and other times very ematic. So it's a really, really cool collection.
Awesome.
And so
Choo, choo, choo.
Yeah, so from a technical workflow standpoint, this is all built in something called Comfy UI. Comfy UI is a node-based development system, so it's blocks. Some of you may be familiar as kids. You played with MIT Sketch. Same sort of concept. You drive sort of blocks and lines around and connect them up, and so you use these modules to create a workflow. And so the key to this is that this was video to video. So Josh and Anne made these source videos and sound recordings, and so each of these videos is a real frame, an actual filmed video frame transformed into a AI generated interpretation of that. And there's a lot of dials that you have along that process. You can basically literally make a setting for how real you want it versus how abstract you want it. And you can actually change that over time. You can dial up the abstraction over the course of the frames. And so ControlNet is the main thing that takes these wireframes and turns this video into a wireframe that then gets transformed by something called Animate Diff. That runs a stable diffusion transformation on each frame. And then it runs a prompt on it. So it takes the wireframe, it takes a prompt, it takes stable diffusion, and it says, I want to do this. And then there's a whole look back process with that sort of maintains consistency. If we just ran a prompt on every frame, it'd look like flashing lights, like there'd be no consistency. And so there's probably a half a dozen processes in there that can be tweaked. And that was kind of the fun part of it, was, small changes in one part of the process have huge effects down the stream. And as Anne said, we went through probably a couple hundred iterations before we had something that just wasn't garbage. And so then we kind of fine-tuned it from there. But I think what's fun about this, you see something like Sora, and it's a 5-second video, and some people chain 20 of those together and turn it into a project. But I think the fun thing about this is it has internal consistency throughout the whole project, which you don't see with a lot of off-the-shelf AI video generators, because they can only run 5 or 10 seconds at a time. So that's a broad overview of the technology and how it all came together.
No, thank you, Todd. I think this is super useful. And I actually wanted to go in a little bit more detail. So for those of us who are not so familiar with the technology, maybe in more simple words, you can actually explain the process, what the artist starts with when, we are all speaking about AI art, and we understand that you're working with technologists and technology to create this art. But maybe if you can just put it in very simple words, how you start, what do you use, and what happens next, just to make it more simple.
So we did all of this on a beefy, sort of gaming system that's right over here, and so this was all done locally, literally in this room. Anne and I were lucky enough to have a buddy of hers give us a NVIDIA A6000 over COVID. This is a really big workstation class card from NVIDIA that has 48 gigs of video RAM, which is really big, and that actually helped us to make high resolution videos that could do a whole lot at once. So that system was key to it. And then we supplied the video from Josh and Anne. That got taken out into frames, and then Anne supplied the prompts that ran across it. There was a core prompt kind of that maintained consistency across the video. But then at different frames, we put in sub-prompts. And so there's a narrative to those videos that changes it. So like on one, we introduced, I don't know, chapter 3 was like a lightning storm. And you can see that in the video, lightning shows up and it gets stormy. And that's intentional. That's the prompt coming in to that. So Anne kind of supplied the narrative, you know, and then we had all these dials that we could tweak between the amount of reality and the amount of abstractness that we had. So Anne was kind of the tastemaker, you know. We had lots of discussions about it. I liked the stuff that was more real. Of course, Anne being an artist, I was like, this is too abstract. And she's like, no, this is great. So there was a lot of back and forth with kind of setting all the parameters for that. But I think that was fun. That's the beauty of working with a real artist like Anne, is, you know, she's got all the background and all the history and all the knowledge of what works and what doesn't work.
Thank you, Todd. And how about you? Can you also share about your project? So we now see Todd's perspective. What is your perspective of working with AI? How do you see it? Is it somewhat the same as Todd, or what do you start with when you are creating?
Are you asking me or Josh?
I'm asking you actually, but yeah, we can hear from Josh also.
For me, it's like a magical like art oven. So you have your prompt, and then it's like it cooks something, and you open it up, and there's this delicious cake, or there's like a horrible souffle that didn't poof up, and you don't know which one you're going to get. But it's always really fun, and I'm often up at like 3 a.m. rerunning another prompt because you just keep getting these wacky things that you wouldn't have arrived at probably on your own. There's just not enough, you know, hours in the day or in your life to have come up with all the things that AI can help you come up with. So in the process we, you know, worked with is basically applying a prompt to original video with a lot of complex stuff thrown in, and trying to make it not look like just a stylized video, but something like a next level above that, which I think we did succeed in doing. But I find it really like almost like there's another collaborator, you know, who doesn't have a little square here in the webinar, but was helping, you know, work on the project and bringing a sort of creative energy to it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think this is a very nice explanation to it. Josh, do you want to add something, or?
Yeah, I'll just like briefly touch on using my, I guess, process was rooted in analog recording techniques and using a hybrid like synthesis model. I don't know if you guys have seen any photos of my studio or anything, but everyone here, sorry, Elena, you haven't come through yet, but you're always invited. Everyone here has been to the studio, and it's like this big control center for oscillators and resonating tones for people who are in the synthesis. But for those who aren't, it's pretty much a room with a bunch of knobs and faders where you can make things bleep, bloop, and blop. So when you put all those things together and you fuse in live field recordings is when you go out with a microphone and you pick up your environment and you record it into a sound card and you put it in your computer and you amplify that sound, and then you can manipulate it, which is what I was doing. And the fun part about it was doing it in real time and using new technology and old techniques with some sort of like, it gave me like a new way to look at the recording process, and working with Anne and Todd's visual works. They were very unpredictable, so it kind of made me relax and not feel too quantized into certain rhythms, and the freedom to just like mess around and play to the transition of colors on screen was really it was a relief. Yeah, it was different than playing the sheet music, I'll put it that way.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, Raina, you want to add something or?
Yeah, well, actually, it's more of a clarifying question for Todd. And I believe you said you guys use Stable Diffusion as your, okay, yeah, text to
Yep.
image generative model. Maybe just to go into that a little bit more, because in that sense, Anne's writing like descriptions or prompts that then generates this imagery. So where is that imagery drawing from, right? Is that just being scraped from the internet, or is that a pool like from a database that you guys have made? Can you talk a little bit just about like that process or that
Yeah.
behind the
So
scenes?
yeah, so it starts out with a frame of video. And so the video that we originated it with, Josh made a lot of those, gets extracted into a single frame. And then that frame has something called ControlNet run on top of it, which generates basically a wireframe. It's the outlines of the subway car and everything around it. It's pretty detailed. It's a detailed wireframe. You can see the windows in buildings if there's a building there or something like that. So, and then that gets run across a Stable Diffusion prompt. It uses Stable Diffusion 1.5, which is a pretty common model. That's one of the typical models like OpenAI or any of them that's trained on the entire internet. And so it's been broadly trained across tons of collected sources across the internet. And so that model then has prompt run on it. Each frame has a master prompt that runs for the whole video, and then sub prompts that runs per particular frame. So it assembles that prompt and then basically takes Stable Diffusion, takes the prompt, and puts that together. And then at the end, there are some processes that create harmony. Basically, they take a look. I think I did a 10-frame look back, so it's looking at the 10 frames before it, and then making sure that it gels, that
It's like
the
seamless.
next frame looks enough like the prior frame that you're creating a stable narrative and a stable video flow. And so that's kind of how it all came together. At the start, it took about 2.5 hours per run for each of the videos. It's funny how fast kind of optimizations and software changes. By the end of our project, over a few months, it was taking 20 minutes to run just because the software got better. But still, that's a significant amount of time. A lot of times, I'd set up like 5 prompts to run in a queue, and then I'd message Anne in the morning and be like, "This is what we got." So it's a pretty slow process to iterate.
Yeah, it's super meticulous, and like, and we've touched on this before. I think a lot of people perceive like if an artist uses AI or anyone uses AI, it obviously does increase, or yeah, it can like produce things quicker, but I think we have this like stereotype or bias that things are happening in seconds. So I think it's really important that you just like
Mm,
broke down how like meticulous each frame and everything, every moment is so thoughtful. And then Josh, overlaying like your
mm.
sonic landscape, are you also looking at each frame as well as the overall?
Yes. Yeah. So the good thing about like that question is really that brings in the what I was talking about, with like the fun aspect of not playing to like just sheet music, or waiting for my bandmates, because my bandmates were the colors on the screen, and they were the instances of trains on the screen and which direction they were going, which perspective that we had in the scene was controlling the panning of the audio. There are like spatial audio aspects of this. There's Atmos mix down of this. So everything is based off of the where things are happening on the screen from the perspective if you were standing on a platform. So playing to things coming in and out, they sort of grab your attention in the same way you would if you were on a platform. Like if you hear a mouse chimmering, it wouldn't just be straight here. So you would have to like position it and think, where would they be coming from when you're in a train? Some things are like, because you're in a tunnel, things are like bouncing off the ceiling and da 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 da. So you sort of have to use that when you're mixing and looking at the videos as I'm mixing them down, and you'll know more about it. Like, just engage with us on, X or whatever, and we can chat about like how the whole process of it, mixing it live was, because that would need its own hour. But like the way things are wired on the control board, because I'm using a live mixing console to mix everything and make it all come together in real time. For instance, there's about 32 instruments in the studio, and in the videos, there's about what, a million, a million things going on. So you sort of have to watch the video to make sure that it's immersive, or else you're just laying an MP3 over an MP4, and that's, to me, that's not really a collaborative work.
Yeah.
So if we aren't in the same place, I have to play to what's happening in real time to like sort of get that feeling of we're here right now and we're doing something that's like together. So playing to the screen, a lot of people won't do that because it's hard work and you have a lot of room for error, but I don't really care. And I'm about that life.
But yeah, you all are. It's such a
Yeah, mainly
yeah.
Anne. She got me in a headlock. I'm over here like, oh, can I even do this? What is this? And it works every time.
Wow.
So yeah,
So
baby.
fascinating. It's awesome. And just if people are looking to see the whole collection, you can see it at makersplace.com exhibition Future Trains. And is it on your website too? If you Google it, it will come up and you can see all the videos. But
I need to update my website. Thank you so much. I'm putting that on my list right now. It will be on my website.
It's on my new
Yeah.
website.
I just changed hosting
I-
providers, and it's been like a little crazy. I'm gonna make that happen.
That's all right.
Oh,
No, I think that's really good, and thank you, Raina, for asking this question. I think one thing that I wanted to actually ask about is, and you mentioned that one other square that we could have on the screen is this AI that is working as a collaborator in the work. So I think also a lot of people have a perception that AI kind of does so much work independently, and where is the ownership of the artist in a work that's created in collaboration with AI. I'm wondering what are your thoughts about it, and what do you reply to this kind of comments?
Yeah, I think it's a misperception. When you read about AI in a lot of media reports, it sounds like you type in something and then magically you have fantastic artwork. And I mean, I kind of wish that were the case. I just retire, sit around and eat bonbons and, type and make art so easily. But it's not like that at all. When you're creating art with AI, it literally takes exactly as much time as making a painting or any other type of artwork. So it seems like it should be faster. And I think that's true really for any digital artwork. It kind of seems like it should be faster, but it never ever is. So it's just different. And it's like you could take a trip by car and then you take a trip by plane, and it is faster, but I don't know. It's like you're still gone for a week. You went somewhere different.
I like it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, just to add to that, yeah, I mean, I think like to do this, you need to have the expertise, the skill, the proficiency, the motivation, the will, like to do it. And I think that's with any, artwork, right? You have to have that motivation, but the vulnerability, the confidence to do it. And so I think in that respect, it really warrants to be taken as a serious, medium. And that if you think about like Duchamp's, the fountain, in the 20th century, that he just went to a hardware store, bought it, put it on a stool, said it was art, defended it as art, and like we consider that to be art. I think it's like the same kind of moment. It's like the digital ready-made.
That's a good comparison. Well, thank you for that. My kind of last official question is, we're still in the beginning of 2025. And as you are all working very actively in this space, I'm wondering what you feel the trends are going to be for this year. What type of digital art will be, I don't know, I don't want to say most popular, but what do you think will pop up? Is AI still going to be one of the key collaborators for the digital artists? What we should watch out for as collectors and artists, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen to NFTs or whether they'll still exist or be called that, and where crypto will go. But I would predict that AI is here to stay and only get more dramatically better, seemingly every week. So I think artists will be incorporating it into their practice, whether they're AI artists or not. Just the way that painters, even if they are not, photographers are involved, painters still use a camera all the time to take visual notes and do research for their work. So it's part of their creative process. And I think AI will be part of most artists' creative process because it's so powerful and it's great for generating ideas. And then some of us will also use it, all the way through to the end, the way all of us here have been doing it. So that's my prediction. Also, I can't believe we're in 2025, which I feel like we're in the future.
I know. One thing that I asked you, or we touched upon in the beginning, is your work at Pompidou. Do you foresee more digital artworks to go into museums in the near
absolutely.
future?
As from the point of view of an artist and also, collector with the Spalter Digital Collection, we major museums around the world to show early part of the art canon. There's definitely going to be this artwork is being collected by museums. So that is already happening and is an excellent thing.
Great. Thank you, Anne. Raina, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think we can all play a role in museum and institutional support of digital art by going to see the shows when museums are exhibiting it, telling all your friends, posting about it. Social media is such an important way in the 21st century how we promote and market, artists and their artwork. If you can't afford it, buy the ticket to see the show. A lot of museums have free nights too, but I think just going and posting is a great way. I think it's super critical that we uplift the voices of artists who are using these important tools because they'll be the way that we start to integrate it into everyday life. I think if you're in the tech sector, how can tech companies donate their tech to institutions so they're able to show these incredible works and present them in diverse ways, not just simply a screen on the wall, projectors, LED walls, what holograms, AR, VR, everywhere that we're going. So yeah, I think it's important for us all to continuously think about how we can play a role in supporting these artists.
Awesome. Thank you, Raina. Todd, would you like to add something?
I think we've kind of reached a natural endpoint with these broad global knowledge models, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, things like that. I think they'll get better, but they'll get marginally better. They've kind of reached an apex. I think what's interesting now is you've got the compute power now, either in the cloud or on your local device, to create your own model. And so you can imagine taking a bunch of photos that you taking the subway videos that Josh took and training a very small local model that then you can do transformations on. I think that's going to be really, really big, this idea of doing your own model creation, which puts the power back in your hands of exactly what you create. There's so much interesting tech going on. I can prototype something on my 3D printer and I can send it off and get it back in aluminum now. There's 3D printers for aluminum. You can't have it in your house. It's very smelly and expensive. But I mean, the idea of things like that for creators, I think are really amazing as well. So as I said, it's really fun to be a nerd in this because the amount of stuff that's coming out monthly that just blows your mind in terms of AI art, and the ability to make things is really pretty amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd.
I'm with Todd on that one. Yeah, I think we all can agree that AI is kind of here to stay. There's really nowhere to run. It's not like they're going to take Siri off your phone. So we might as well just get used to it and try to incorporate it in a way that isn't lame. And I see like a lot of the surface level incorporations in art can be perceived as lame, but these things here will like sort of cast the light on that because people will see the process and they'll know how things are happening and like sitting and taking the time. It's like going to a lecture at an art university. That's your way to really get saturated with knowledge and stuff like that, and like you can further become engaged with these things. And like what we're doing here is, I think, is quite groovy because we have all of these elements happening in real time, and you can learn something from Anne, Raina, Todd, myself, you, Elena, and then you can go back and look at the work and have more respect for it, and you can have a broader understanding of it because you know the process. So I think that what I think is like going to be a trendy thing at 25 is process. People are going to want to see how things are going from start to finish, because that way you can trust it and know its value more, as opposed to just like rendering a something fraudulent or whatever. And yeah, I mean, people are gonna not know what to trust on the internet. And if you can look and know the process and people are behind it, that's groovy. But I think we have to keep doing these things, waking up early, getting on streams and talking about stuff, liking each other. I think that's going to be the main thing for like 25 with AI art, because everyone has one. I mean, you're going to need an AI agent just to talk to somebody else's AI agent, because we're not going to be able to reply fast enough. So,
Love it.
and it's like, I'm serious. I mean, there's going to be like AI agent rights. They're going to need their own lawyers, all of this stuff. And like, they're going to have their own little world, and we're going to have our own little world. And then their world's probably going to be a bit more interesting. So people might tune out a bit of this and then go over there. And we're making it so that it at least looks and sounds cool over there. So, we might as well just get used to it and have some fun with it. As long as nobody's like trying to make anybody's life lame, and let's just keep making stuff for 25 and collaborating. I mean, what else are we gonna do?
I couldn't agree
Complain.
more. I think that's a great way to predict things for 2025. Speaking of AI agents, I mentioned one by Live Art at the beginning of the conversation. So Live Art also has a database of the public auction results, and it's a very extensive, useful tool for anybody in the art market wanting to know how much this Picasso or Warhol or whatever else cost at the latest auction. But now there will be also an AI agent that you can use that will actually make things much easier when you are searching for results or looking up on some stats for the certain artists and how they performed at the auctions or what the market of the artist is. So I'm excited about this tool. I think it's going to be useful for the collectors, art market professionals, artists, and yeah, can't wait to share it with everyone. But for today, I wanted to thank you all for coming here today, speaking about your work. And once you update your website, please share the link with me. I'd be very happy to share it with the audience so that we can see it. I hope we can see more work in person as well at the museums and the galleries and wherever else. And we can see each other in person more often. That would be great as well. So thank you so much for joining me here today to speak about AI, to speak about future trends, your art, and the trends. I think, yeah, all in all, it's very promising because we're here for the art, we're here for the community, and we're here to work with one another. And I think that's the most valuable thing that we have in this market. So I'm still very excited. All right. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you all very soon. And thank you to our wonderful audience for joining today and supporting our webinar series that we will continue further on. See you all soon.
Thank you.